If your team isn't using ClickUp, you're wasting time, and data proves it. 61% of knowledge workers manage work more than doing it, switching apps 1,000 times a day. That's work sprawl and costs millions. ClickUp replaces 20 apps with Convergence, uniting projects, docs, and chats, while AI super agents handle the busy work. Join 4 million teams using ClickUp to finish work 30% faster. Try it free and get 15% off AI upgrades at clickup.com/podcast. That's CLICKUP.com/podcast. You know that wellness goal you set at the start of the year? It's not too late to stick with it and make your future self proud, especially with the all-in-one nutrition shake from Kachava. With 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, adaptogens, and more. No fillers, no nonsense, just the highest quality ingredients. Stick with your wellness goals. Go to Kachava.com and use code SMOOTHIE for 15% off. That's KACHAVA.com, code SMOOTHIE.
Today's episode is brought to you by Amantara. Amantara is an education-first plant and mushroom wellness brand, and they specialise in providing dietary supplements that can aid your well-being. Amanita muscaria is a legal mushroom that is traditionally associated with relaxation and nervous system calm. As somebody who has issues around anxiety and sleep, I am always looking for dietary supplements that may aid in reducing the levels of anxiety that I experience and just make my brain feel a little bit calmer. Amanita is used by adults all over the US as part of a wind down or evening routine. Amantara is a brand that emphasises transparency, responsible use and education. Their website is full of information about Amanita muscaria and its potential benefits. As with any dietary supplement, it is incredibly important to consult your medical provider before trying it. To learn more about Amanita muscaria and Amantara's approach, visit amantara.com. That's amantara.com. Hello and welcome to mini episode number 501 of Real Life Ghost Stories, and today's episode is dedicated to Susan Shered. Susan, you are so loved and wishing you the speediest of speedy recoveries. And I have 2 spooky stories for you today, and our last story comes from the 15th of November 2025, and story number 1 comes from Gary. For many years now, I've had my concerns regarding sketchy street people. You know, like the ones you typically see roaming around aimlessly in the downtown cores of large cities, and that always seem to be busy having intense conversations with themselves. What really bothers me about them has nothing to do with them approaching me begging for money. Oh no, it's something far more sinister than that. This is something that's happened to me a few times now, so it's really starting to screw with my mind. It's when these questionable looking characters just suddenly seem to stop whatever it is that they're doing, quickly swing their heads around to gaze over at me, and then creepily laser beam focus stare deep into my eyes. And hell, they've even come running clear across a busy street to reach me, so that they can weirdly begin to spew out freakishly specific and accurate details regarding my personal life. Like, what the actual fuck? It's really got me thinking. Are these seemingly psychic links completely random and simply just a coincidence? Or is there something else afoot here? For example, about 10 years ago or so, while attending a conference in Nashville, and as I was walking along Broadway, also known as the Honky Tonk Highway, something really strange happened to me. Sure, I had spent some quality time with Jack Daniels earlier that night, but I swear to you that what I'm about to tell you had absolutely nothing to do with that. So as I passed by various bars and taverns, listening to the live music that was blasted out into the street through the open doors and windows, a wild-eyed, dishevelled-looking fellow wearing a very odd, tall, black top hat suddenly sprang out in front of me. He immediately gave me Charles Manson vibes. His shifty eyes quickly looked me up and down, closely examining every little thing about me, like he was some kind of robot or something trying to gather information. And as he's doing this, I'm just kind of standing there thinking to myself, okay. The next thing I know, he theatrically swings a badly worn acoustic guitar out in front of him from behind his back, and then, in slow motion, proceeds to pull a plastic guitar pick out from between his two front teeth, and that's not even the weirdest part. As I'm standing there just staring at this peculiar looking dude with his big floppy hat, scruffy 5 o'clock shadow face, devilish eyes and his badly worn guitar, having long unsnipped guitar strings hanging off the neck and just sort of rhythmically dangling all about, he then slowly gives me a ridiculous over-the-top curtsy, like we're at some kind of medieval Elizabethan masked ball, right before suddenly unleashing his madness. The next thing he does is to give me the absolute creepiest open-mouthed, teeth-begone grin that you can ever imagine, just before beginning to frenetically strum his guitar and sing, "Well, here you go then. Yeah, you can take this job and shove it because I ain't working here no more." And then he just abruptly stops. He just sort of stood there, frozen in time, looking me straight in the eye in complete silence, looking like some kind of possessed circus freak who thinks he's a hypnotist, desperately wanting to enter my mind. And all I can hear in the background is the steady noise of Honky Tonk Highway, with all of its half conversations of both the excited and happily drunk people walking by. The silence was deafening. And then out of nowhere, he suddenly lifted his guitar neck up towards the heavens and dramatically started playing again, belting out, "If you leave me now, you'll take away the biggest part of me." Once again, he freezes his body in an awkward stance as if in a catatonic state. And there's that complete silence again, accompanied by that unnerving, devilish smile of his. No, this can't be happening, I'm thinking to myself. What are the frickin' odds? You see, shortly before encountering this guitar-wielding man, and as I was slowly sauntering down this long, busy street, I was very deep in thought, thinking hard about and questioning the validity of both my current job situation as well as personal relationship. Maybe I'm overthinking it, and it was nothing more than just a big coincidence. In any case, this experience really freaked me out and made me stop and wonder if these apparent random strangers that we bump into now and then are maybe actually somehow able to psychically tap into our deepest, darkest mental brainwaves, our thoughts and fears. So just to clarify, the first song was, "Well, here you go then, you can take this job and shove it because I ain't working here no more." And the second song was the absolute classic, "If you leave me now, you take away the biggest part of me." And no, I'm not going to sing it, no matter how much you beg. And I'm sure there are lots of people listening who have had similar experiences. Maybe not quite as strange as this one, but I had one a couple of years ago. My friend and I were walking down the high street in Canterbury, and there were ladies selling sprigs of heather. And Dan used to always be frightened of the ladies selling sprigs of heather because he thought that they might curse him if he didn't buy the heather. And I bought some heather, and my friend bought some heather, and the lady grabbed me by the face in a non-threatening way, and she looked deep in my eyes and she said, "The worst day of your life is over. It will never be worse than that." And honestly, at the time, it felt so insanely profound. I was like, thanks. And my friend was going through it as well with some serious family issues, and the woman also just told him something that was completely relevant to what he was going through at the time. Really specifically relevant. And I remember both of us were a bit like, let's never talk about this again. And sometimes in life we meet some wonderful, weird, eccentric, brilliant people that can feel like they don't fit into expected societal norms. And that can be for myriad reasons, you know. It can be to do with addiction. It can be to do with mental health issues. It can be to do with the fact that they're just slightly eccentric and have chosen to live their life differently. And maybe this person that you met, Gary, maybe they just tapped into what was going on for you at that moment in time. Maybe they just tapped into your energy. And maybe they gave you the best advice that you could have gotten in that moment, albeit in an unconventional way.
ClickUp just solved AI's biggest problem, and it's saving 4 million teams from productivity loss every day. Unlike ChatGPT and other AI tools, ClickUp converges all your work into one platform, so your AI super agents have full context to prioritize tasks, execute workflows, and draft documents instantly. Teams using ClickUp finish work 30% faster and cut meetings in half. Try ClickUp for free today and get 15% off AI upgrades at clickup.com/podcast. That's CLICKUP.com/podcast.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles Mackenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
And our second story today comes from Kayti. I've previously shared some of my experiences. My boyfriend who got possessed during a lockdown Ouija board and the shadow ICU patient. But back to the boyfriend. Now fiancé, but that's not the scary part. In his 36 years of life, he has never been a believer of the paranormal. He's been supportive of my experiences and has indulged me on more than a few haunted nights. But the last 2 years, something has changed. His mum passed away, we lost a baby, and we have joined a golf club. The clubhouse is situated in the mansion of a wealthy business owner. My fiancé has given me permission to share his experiences, so here they are. This took place in February 2025. I was extremely unwell with pneumonia and had a kidney stone. Yes, that sucks as much as it sounds. I was asleep in bed when he woke up for a drink of water and saw what he thought was me sat on the edge of my side of the bed. He went to stroke my back and ask if I was okay when he noticed that I was actually still laid down sleeping. He looked a little closer and saw what he described as an older version of your Auntie Jay with white hair, silently watching over me. I was obviously oblivious to this, but he didn't go back to sleep. He told me about it in the morning. I showed him a photo of my beloved granny who he had never met, and he swore blind it was her. Fun fact, I was born on her birthday and lived 3 doors away from her for most of my life. He was part of the team that cleared her house when she moved into a care home, but I didn't meet him then. She passed away in 2018. A few months after his mum passed away, we had gone up to go for the usual Sunday afternoon trip to see his dad. Walking up the garden path towards the front door, we both did a double take. Sitting in her usual spot by the window, we both saw his mum's side profile. His dad was snoozing on the sofa watching the racing. We moved into the house that we live in now a good while after his mum died, so she never stepped foot here. However, we do have her ashes sitting on the bookshelf by the window upstairs. Quite often we will both hear footsteps coming from the room where she is. And on days when he's missing her the most, out of nowhere, Meatloaf will play. The significance of this is in her last days of life, we sat with her and I played her favourite album, Bat Out of Hell. His dad has also been woken up from sleep, hearing her shouting either for him or at him. My grandma passed away a few weeks before we lost his mum. My granddad didn't want to live in a 3-bedroomed house by himself, and we desperately were looking for somewhere else to live, so we moved into my grandparents' house. Granddad didn't want the bedroom my grandma had, so we took that room. She died very unexpectedly and suddenly, so we had to clear her room out, redecorate and bring our furniture over. My granddad had built her a dressing table and drawers into the alcove in the bedroom when they first moved in 45 years ago. On the dressing table were some antique mirrors that belonged to her mum, who had spent some time in an asylum for paranoid schizophrenia. My grandma always had a thing about mirrors due to hearing the delusions of her mum from a young age. These mirrors are absolutely stunning, but feel wrong. One night, not long after we'd moved in, I was on a night shift, so it was just my fiancé and my granddad in the house. He woke up in the middle of the night and saw a silhouette of a tall, slender woman standing by the mirrors. Interestingly, around the same time, our cat outright refused to go into our bedroom. especially the corner near the mirrors. She would literally sprint or leap across the room to avoid what was once her favourite place to sleep. As I mentioned earlier, we joined a golf club where the clubhouse is an old mansion previously owned by a mill owner. One evening last winter, we were the last ones in the clubhouse with the exception of the club chairman, who was locking up the bar. I went to the loo and my fiancé was waiting down the corridor for me. I really hate this corridor for some reason. I always feel like I'm being watched by a sinister man. There's the side door to get into the clubhouse. Behind that on the inside there is a door leading to the cellar. He said he had heard footsteps behind him, like big heavy-soled boots, and felt like he was in trouble. The downstairs is entirely carpeted, so bootsteps wouldn't be heard anyway. He didn't say anything to me or to the chairman that night, but did mention it a few days later to the barmaid, who confirmed what I had felt and what he had heard. There's a strong male energy that roams around the mansion, but it's not believed to be the former owner. Nobody can work out who the sinister man would be, as by all accounts the original owner was a wonderful man. Finally, the story that still sends chills down me, as beautiful as the story is. I need to give a trigger warning for child loss. Years before we met, he lost a child. I had several miscarriages and we have suffered a miscarriage together. Just before we found out I was pregnant with our baby, he had a week solid of dreaming of me walking around the local park with a teenage boy. 7 children of varying ages who all seemed out of focus, and a pram with a newborn in who was in focus. This is a man whose dreams usually consist of outlandish things such as him being turned into a fish or memories of things he's done. He told me after night 3 of the same dream. Including the baby we lost last year, I've had 7 miscarriages. His son would be a teenager now, and most eerily, I'm currently pregnant again. Katie, I have my fingers, toes crossed for you for this pregnancy, and I'm putting it all out into the universe that your pregnancy is going to be wonderful and smooth and gorgeous, and your birth is going to be wonderful, smooth and gorgeous. I think it's so interesting that in that first story, you're extremely unwell with pneumonia and a kidney stone, and pneumonia is a serious, serious illness, right? And a kidney stone also horrifically painful, etc. And I wonder if your granny was watching over you, sitting on the bed watching over you when you were so ill, and that's what he happened to wake up and see. I also think it's really interesting that he was part of the team that cleared out her house before you guys had even met. Call it fate, call it the universe, call it whatever. It sometimes has a funny way of telling you that you were always meant to be together. And it really does sound like his mum is kind of watching out for you guys, you know? That she's sitting in her usual spot by the window, you both see her side profile, you hear her footsteps, and the days that he's missing her, Meatloaf will play. You know, those are beautiful ways for his mom, I think, to be like, I'm here, I see you, I'm watching over you, I'm still knocking around, I'll be here when you're struggling, I'll be here to look after you. Gosh, I think we could all do with believing that the people that we love and care about and the people that we have lost are somehow looking out for us. And I think the story about the mirrors is really interesting. So I know that a lot of people see mirrors as portals. I have a number of secondhand, quite old, I wouldn't say antique, but probably vintage mirrors in my bedroom, and they never cause me any problems. However, I do think it's interesting that these mirrors, these antique mirrors, belonged to your great grandmother who had paranoid schizophrenia, and from what I can gather from the story, was frightened of mirrors or had a thing about mirrors. And I wonder if that energy has carried on, into her death, that she's still hovering around, or her energy is still hovering around those mirrors, especially if they were such a cause of disturbance for her, or they were a cause of some sort of delusion for her, or they distressed her in some way. Maybe her energy drops in to check up on him and make sure that you're okay with those mirrors in the room. And it's interesting when you are in a place like this golf clubhouse where there doesn't seem to be anything historically that would point to a heavy-souled, booted man who is sinister stalking the corridors, But I think you just never know with energy. You never know how it's going to manifest. You never know where it's going to manifest or what it's attracted to. I also am very aware that I seem to be jumping all over the place here, but I'm just going through these stories chronologically. Yeah, I think you just can't know how energy is going to manifest. You know, you hear stories of people who are living in brand new houses, newly built houses that there seems to be weird things happening in, where there doesn't seem to be any reason as to why there should be weird things happening in it. And like I said, in terms of your last story, obviously we wish you all the best with your pregnancy, and hopefully that you saw that dream as a great comfort, that the babies that you have lost before, that you've both lost before, that they are here looking out for you and will be looking out for you when you are pushing that pram with a newborn, you know, through the park, and they'll be there right alongside you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Thank you to Gary and Kayti for sending in your stories. Remember, the last story came from the 15th of November 2025. And if you would like to send in your story, you can do so by emailing it to reallifeghoststoriespodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out the website reallifeghoststoriespodcast.com. And if you are desperate for some extra content, you can subscribe to the Patreon. That is patreon.com/reallifeghoststories, where for $5 a month or for $2 a month, you can get access to heaps of extra content, as well as every single main and mini episode completely ad-free. And on that note, I shall see you next time.
ClickUp just solved AI's biggest problem, and it's saving 4 million teams from productivity loss every day. Unlike ChatGPT and other AI tools, ClickUp converges all your work into one platform, so your AI super agents have full context to prioritize tasks, execute workflows, and draft documents instantly. Teams using ClickUp finish work 30% faster and cut meetings in half. Try ClickUp for free today and get 15% off AI upgrades at clickup.com/podcast. That's CLICKUP.com/podcast.